Howdy hey, my name is Matthew Underwood, and this is 3D Printing 101 recorded version. So, for today, I'm going to go ahead and be going through the SOP that we have for 3D printers. So the first thing on the SOP is they ask that we go ahead and ensure that the build plate is all cleaned off. So, all my other printers are currently running, but I do happen to have this boy right here, which doesn't have anything on him. So, what I'm going to go ahead and do is, if I have been touching this bed as of recently, then I'm going to go ahead and wipe it down with isopropyl alcohol, no less than 91%. The reason being is because the more that I touch this build surface, the more that grease from my hands actually gets onto this, which means that the plastic that is being melted in this hot end actually has a much harder time binding to the build surface. So, we get around that by going ahead and grabbing ourselves a paper towel, grabbing ourselves some isopropyl alcohol, and dousing this boy with a generous amount of that, and then going ahead and wiping down the build plate. You can see how I can actually see the isopropyl alcohol on top. That's exactly what you want to see as well. So we're going to go ahead and wipe it down. Everything's all good. Now, if you had to remove the build plate from your last print and you happen to set it down somewhere, you're also going to want to go ahead and make sure that there's no debris or particles on either side of this. So that means going ahead and running a hand over the bottom, feeling if there's any bumps or anything that would get in the way of this making a nice flat adhesion to the bottom of this magnetic build surface. Woohoo! Almost lost that boy. Looks like back here, don't have any specks, don't have anything else. So, no food crumbs, no nothing. Okay, sweet. We're ready to go ahead and put this back. And it doesn't have to be perfectly centered. As you can see over here, it's a little off. It's perfectly fine, it will still print. It really doesn't matter too much. You just need to get it just about right. And backed all the way up to the back, like so. And you are all set to go. Now, you also need to go ahead and ensure that the correct nozzle is applied for whatever print you're going to be doing. Most of the prints that are going to be happening are going to be mural prints, and those mural prints are all going to have 0.6 millimeter nozzles on them, because 0.6 millimeter nozzles happen to print a lot quicker than your standard 0.4 millimeter nozzle, which is used for more of a high precision and detailed print, like what we have on these printers right now, since they have such fine details that they're trying to accomplish. You wouldn't want to try to do that with a 0.6 nozzle. For large murals, it doesn't really matter, so you can use a 0.6. So most of the ones that you're going to be using are going to be 0.6. Ensure that whatever file you are going to be slicing from is the correct nozzle size. One of the ways that you can check that is if I go ahead and click in on this button, then I can actually start to go through this menu and navigation screen. I suppose before I do that though, I could go and show you the home screen and tell you exactly what's going on. So here you can see how we got, there we go. So up here you can see what the temperature is actually at for the hot end, the part that actually gets hot and melts plastic and pushes it out. This is the actual temperature that it's sitting at, 23 degrees Celsius, what my house is currently set to. And then this is 27 degrees Celsius for the bed and 0 degrees Celsius for what it's set to. And the fan right now is not spinning, which is why you can see that nothing's going on with that. The last print that I had got aborted, so that's why it says print aborted. Now, if I go into this menu, I can go ahead and go through and begin to go ahead and show you all the features that you can do. So, this right here is motion. You can go ahead and move axes if you want to. You can go ahead and perform an auto home, a home X, a home Y, home all these other things, or disable steppers if you really wanted to, which just means disable all of your motors. So, if I select this move axis and then go in, and I go ahead and select move Z, and I want to go and move it 10 millimeters at a time, right now it's currently at 5, but if I go ahead and tick this up to 15, it will go ahead and raise that Z height. Now 25, now 35. This is sometimes useful, but to be completely honest with you, the other thing that you could do if you really want to move the Z-axis quickly is you can just go ahead and push the extruder off to the side, unless it is currently in its axis mode, in which case all the motors are currently applied. So I'll go ahead and go on back to my main menu, see if this is still applied. it is, so I'm just going to go ahead and shut the machine off using this power switch, which is located right over here. Gonna go ahead and shut that boy off. And now, since there's no electricity actually being fed to the machine, I can go ahead and just lightly push the X-axis over, and then if I really want to move the Z-axis in a hurry, I can go ahead and just put some fingers under here and push up. The reason why I do it from this side is because this side actually has the Z-axis and the Z-axis motor down there. This side over here is just guides. It has nothing else besides those wheels that are just trying to guide it along. If I push on this side, nothing's going to happen. You're just going to bend the crap out of that X-axis. So always just go ahead, move this over, and then push up from here, and that's how you lift the Z-axis quickly. You want to move the X-axis quickly, you just go ahead and do this as well. And don't worry, because if you actually push these enough, you're going to generate enough power that that screen is actually going to turn on a little bit. So, funny story. And then for your build plate, sometimes whenever it gets done with a print, it auto homes to all the way back here where it's like the most difficult thing to grab. So you just shut the printer off and then pull this up to the front. Shutting the printer off has no negative consequences for the printer at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it back on. It's gonna go through its boot up phase. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, now going through the menu further, I go ahead and select in, and then, as we discussed through the motion, you can also move the X and Y, and you can also do an auto home for the 3D printer. So I'll just go ahead and show you the home function, just so you're familiar with what that entails. So now I can just push this over, and auto home. So, printer's automatically going to move itself over until it hits that switch, in which case it tells it I'm ground to that side, and it's going to go ahead and ground its Y and Z axis, just like that. Alright, and now it's homed. It knows exactly where it is in all the coordinates. Now we've gone through the motion section. The temperature section is pretty cool. You can manually adjust what temperature the nozzle goes up to through this menu, so I can go ahead and just crank this up as high as I want. I wouldn't recommend going above 230 degrees Celsius though, because then your printer might start throwing some alarms. For your bed, this is just always going to be set around 60. You have your fan speed set right here. It's currently at 0%. You're not going to need to adjust that at all. Then you have your preheat PLA, which you're going to use quite often. So in this menu, you have your preheat PLA, preheat end, and preheat bed. So this is just the distinguishment between preheating the actual hot end itself, that thing right there, and actually preheating the bed, which is this part of the build. So the way that the extruder works is it actually heats up using that, where you can see the red wire leading in to that white area. That's actually a heating element, and that's the part that actually gets hot. That screw that you can see right there with some white cord sticking into it, that's your thermistor, and that tells you what the temperature currently is on it whenever you do it. So, by the way, this is the extruder. It looks like this on the 3D printer. You can see the similarities between the two, and then the heat fan just wraps around it. So, there's that. So temperature is all set. It also has, some other preheat options for it for ABS. Apparently that's the only other one on this motherboard in particular, but that's cool. Configuration, you shouldn't have to mess around in here at all. Nope. Okay, that's all set. Change filament. So there are two ways that you can change the filament. One, you can just select this and then say preheat PLA, and then have this do all of its automatic changing filament settings. For me personally though, I just always heat up the hot end and then manually pull it out. There's no need to do the button itself, but if you want to use it, go for it. Language, please don't change that. And then you have the release card, print from card. This is going to come in handy because this is how you're going to access all the files that you need to actually print from. And whenever I was talking about figuring out what size nozzle you were using, I can go ahead and go into these, and for these, since they're all murals, I know that this is going to be a 0.6 millimeter nozzle. I have something that's a little bit more vague. It should have, oh wait. It should have, yeah. some settings in here that if I scroll through, it will tell me like what the layer height is set to, and then over on the other end, whenever it's actually scrolling through, it will tell me the nozzle that it's using. So 0.44 millimeter layer height is only achievable through like a 0.6 millimeter nozzle, so that's an easy way to tell that. About printer, that's just stats and such. Nothing too much with it. Okay, and that is navigating the menu. Now, as far as the components on this hot end, you're still grounded? Okay, well, I'm just going to go ahead and shut you off then. Step 4, shut it off, and then you can start manually moving stuff around. The components of this boy. Are you have your hot end fan right here, which is actually going to blow very cold air right onto the nozzle, as you can see from under there. It has that little duct that will blow right onto it. This fan right here is for your heat dispersion, which are these fins right here on this model. So the fan is blowing through these to go ahead and keep this portion cool. You want that red portion to continue to remain cool so that heat doesn't travel back up through this Bowden tube, this blue part right here, and actually cause the filament to get stuck right on the end. You only want the heat right here, right where the nozzle is, right where this heat brick is, heat block is. So that's kind of the functions of that. And that is all the components and all the menu settings that you need. Yeah. So this has been the 3D Printing 101 SOP. I am Matthew Underwood. Thank you so much for listening. Happy printing.